So hello and welcome to another Valorant map analysis. Today we finally get an interesting map to talk about defending wise, and that is Breeze. And Breeze might be the most interesting map, and I think the most important map of all of them to talk about, because I'm sure that a lot of you struggle somewhat to defend on Breeze, and this happened in the pros as well. But the pros have adapted to the point where Breeze is now actually a 50-50 map. And I remember when it, was first started to be played in the pro scene. God, Breeze was like, if you didn't get like 8 rounds on attack, you had lost, and you really ideally were looking for about 9. That's how attack sided it was at first, but with time, of course, the pros adjusted, and now we have a map that is close to 50-50 actually, which might surprise quite a few of you, because I'm sure when you defend Breeze in ranked games, it doesn't feel like a 50-50, and it feels like you're up against it a lot. And so today we're going to go, and talk about how the pros sort of solved the problems of Breeze and learned how to defend this map. First things first though, let's take a look at the meta on this map, and I do think that the 5 agents here, and there is some alternative options as well, in Jet, Sova, and Viper are always a certainty. Then there's kind of a choice between Skye and KO, which, kind of whichever one you kind of prefer, I guess. And then Cypher, obviously, in the Valorant Champions tournament was picked, but I do expect that Chamber would take some of that pick rate away pretty significantly as well, and so I think either of these two Sentinels will also do you pretty well on this map. And yeah, this is a pretty solid, kind of standard-ish map now. There isn't too many differences, of course. So as ever, I am going to put these agents in certain positions, but I am not going to try and refer too much to any specific utility necessarily. We'll try and be as general as we possibly can to accommodate as many different agents as we possibly can. So first, let's take a look at the different choke points on the map. First, of course, we have Cave, and then we have the mid wooden doors as well. And then in Tube, we kind of have a weird one, because it's kind of like it's kind of like a box choke point, because you can make this a choke point. You can make kind of the opening and shut door a choke point, and you can make sort of the second door a choke point as well. So it's kind of dependent on exactly how you want to defend it. Then we have, I guess this is kind of 1.5 choke points. Obviously, most people will come from elbow, but this is kind of a choke point, I guess. It's very risky for anyone to actually come up here, but they could. It is possible for them. And of course, then we have the B main entrance. So I would call that probably, and so far we've been looking at a 3 to 4 map in Ascent in terms of the ways attackers can go to how many choke points, and then a 4-4 map in Bind. This is probably actually like a 5.5 map, which is why, it's so difficult to defend in general. Because there's so many different ways that attackers can come at you at. There's just a lot of things going on in general, and obviously it's a very big, open, wide map, which makes rotations a lot longer as well. So, it was a very difficult challenge for people to solve initially on how to defend this map. But most of the problems on this map stemmed across A main, because B main in general isn't too bad to defend. This is quite a narrowish choke point that, you can put utility in and slow down a push of the B main. Attackers have to walk into this narrow choke point and then take a couple steps still in that narrow choke point. Whereas when we compare that to A, look at this. It's a very wide open space for the attackers, and they have to take one step, and then they're into a wide open space, which gives them so much room to maneuver, and it means that most characters' utility just simply isn't going to cut it in terms of, trying to stop any attack there. That's the problem that teams are facing with A main, is how on earth do you stop people pushing out of that cave when it's so attack-sided? And there's even more than that. Of course, when the Viper wall comes across like this as well, this is just completely oppressive, and I don't really know how, there isn't an easy way of stopping the attackers from even getting all that space once that Viper wall is up. And the other problem is, on both B and A, you kind of can't really just like push up and take the space, because it's kind of a coin flip. If you do push up here, there's no reason why an attacker can't just come here and kill you. You're just flipping a coin when you make this walk, and the same is true when you walk up B. Once you take these steps, like say you're trying to get to here, there's no guarantee that an attacker won't just come here and see you and kill you when you aren't prepared. And the same is true even once you get to here and you're just making sure there isn't someone there, that someone won't come here and just kill you. It's very difficult to be able to just, actually push out of the two areas as well at the start of the round. You might want to try and get aggressive. It's not going to be easy. It's basically going to be a coin flip of who sees who first, right? And that's, never a great thing, because it's just a coin flip. You want to do things that give you the advantage. So, A main we know is the problem. We can defend on B. This elbow defense isn't too bad either. So the whole B side of the map I don't think really is the problem. So how on earth have we gone about defending A? Because what was happening before is you'd get like 3 people, just bull rushing you down this A side. You'd maybe get one person coming through the mid doors as well, and you'd get one person coming down tube as well on a late lurk, and down to here they'd maybe open the door as well. And the problem is, and I've mentioned this on other split rushes that you can do on certain maps, like Haven Garage, like going through the garage and seeing that, the entrance is so shallow that it actually doesn't matter a lot of the time. Whereas on this A site, it is absolute hell, because they can come from, let's call this 0, right? The main entrance. They can come halfway up to the site. They can come kind of 2/3 of the site with opening the door, and they can come all the way behind you as well. And so they have 4 entrances that cover kind of all the different points. So there's basically nowhere safe if you can't control these entrances. So what did teams do to try and stop this? Because it's such a nightmare, and really it is crazy how many resources you have to apply to just this site to be able to keep it safe. But what most teams have been doing is they will put a trap wire, and this could be an alarm bar, it could be one of Chambers' little things as well, the trademarks. They will put some bit of utility here in tube to just make sure that no one has got past this point. Okay, no one is actually around all the way to the back. That's what they'll do, just to make sure that is the clear case. And this is the first time, by the way, and I will be talking about this on other maps, but with Bind and Ascent it wasn't really relevant, but I'm going to call this cheating a lane, right? Tube is a lane that you can go down, but you're not going to put anyone in tube. You're not going to actually have a person there defending it. You're going to cheat the lane, and what cheat the lane means is you kind of take an area that people don't maybe normally use, or maybe only one of the opponents will use. It's not going to be like a full rush down there. You'll take that area and you'll just put a bit of utility, normally a Sentinel's utility, in that area, and just say, we're not actually going to look at that, and we'll know if they've got past a certain point there, because most of the time people won't go there, so let's not even bother with actually doing that. And so you'll often get this Cypher tripwire here, and now we're going to go through this setup and talk about the different roles each person has. We'll start off with the easy ones, right? We'll start off with the B main person. The B main person, you're responsible for B main. That's what you have to deal with, and you can go really anywhere on the site you want, defend it from all the different angles you can, and this is quite a nice site for being in different areas. You can be both on their left and their right. You can be further back side, you can play more aggressive, right? You can do a lot of things. There's quite a few different positions to go here, and as long as the person over here defending your split rush isn't dead, then you should be okay to do quite a few different things. And as it is a smaller choke point, you should be able to delay them somewhat. And then the person on A main, their job is pretty simple as well. You're defending the cave entrance. That's all you need to do. Defend this cave entrance. Don't be caught out. Again, obviously be aware of what's going on around you. Like if your support player here dies, you know that, okay, they could be behind me. You might actually want to play a more aggressive angle. It's kind of a bit weird that you normally would retreat when your ally dies, but actually on this site, because of the different entranceways they can get, you actually probably want to get more aggressive towards your position and try and kill everyone that is coming through the cave entrance. But then let's talk about the middle 3 players, because this is how they solved the issue. This is how Pro Team started to solve the A bomb site issue. What they did was they had someone posted up here on stairs, and this person on stairs is doing a couple things. One, if this fireball, it kind of depends exactly where it's placed, but normally on the stairs, you can just about get a peek over it to see how many people. You might not be able to make the shot because it's going to be quite a difficult shot, but you can get, a good idea of how many people are coming through a cave if they do, even over the Vipe wall. And also it's going to be a difficult shot for them if it's a difficult shot for you, so, you probably will be able to live through that as well. But crucially, on the stairs, what you're also next to is the sort of entrance for the door, the key for the door, the switch you have to pull. You're right next to it on these stairs. And so if anyone does open the door, what Pro Teams would do is have someone stationed right by this door and just shut it. Just like as soon as it's opening, just shut it back down. And that often meant that this player who would maybe come down into tube, let's make a little enemy Cypher here, because it often was a Cypher. What it would mean is they're kind of stuck, because now they had the information that they know exactly where they are. Running back is a bit of a death trap because, well, I mean, it's a long, straight corridor to run back to. So running back probably isn't the best idea. If they push forward, again, they'll know if they push forward and destroyed the tripwire. And time is ticking. Often at this point, the players are starting to rotate and you're in trouble. You have to make a move pretty quick. And what often would happen is this player would just be kind of isolated and kind of stuck and not know what to do if the door gets closed again. And so that was kind of genius. To just have someone man the door. No, you're not opening the door. You're either going to the cipher tripwire and you're telling us where you are again, or you're running back, which is a bad option as well because it's going to take you a long time to get back there. And then what are you doing? Or you're just going to sit there and wait and be isolated and wait for us to kind of, play in a 5v4. And that's basically what pro teams were trying to do. Now, you might wonder, well, okay, this person is actually watching cave then and not mid doors. So what's going on at mid doors? Well, that's where these two players come in. And putting two people here. Now, what they would often do is put someone in nest and on the right-hand side of nest. Now, why would they do that? Well, it's because on the right-hand side of nest, you can see a lot of things. You can see the cross from mid to a short. You can see elbow. You can go and peek elbow. You can even, maybe peek out and see the other side of mid as well. And this person has another job, which is if this trapwire gets destroyed at any point, then it is their responsibility to make sure that no one is coming across the bridge into the bridge area and getting across there. So they had a pretty important role in, being here, checking a bunch of different angles, making sure that it's all safe, and then also being the person who's responsible for rotating if this trapwire is destroyed. Now, normally you will want a character like a Jet or someone who can get out across to this side. In case they're in trouble, you don't want to be stuck on this right-hand side, so you do want a Jet. I mean, it could even be Cypher as well, anyone who can use a bit of utility to just, get across somewhere pretty quick. That's who you want in this scenario. And so often that's the kind of character who would be up here on the right-hand side of nest. And remember, they are checking this A short cross. Now, similar here from elbow, you too can see this A short cross. And so that means you have two people manning this area here. This area in between mid and short, this little cross point that they have to go through. You've got two people watching it. So it's their job to watch this cross. And if someone does cross, then it's their job to tell the people on a site, someone has crossed into mid doors, they're coming through mid doors, and then they can adapt, right? They can get to positions where, they can be safe. And now on the stairs, it's already pretty safe, and you can still take that fight. Maybe the Cypher comes across here. There is this little ledge here, so you're still even probably safe here, particularly if you come and hug up to the ledge, from this push from mid door. So it's actually fine. And you'll have the information that someone actually has done that, and they probably will have to run through the gunfire as well. But this means, what these two mean, is that any push towards B, you have two players that are very easily able to support the B player very quickly. But they can also crucially see this cross through mid in towards A. And so that means you don't have to focus too much attention on it because that's not going to be the main threat. So this means that essentially you have two people watching cave. You have the door is secure. The door is not a problem. You have easy access to be able to stop a push all the way down tube as well. You'll have the information and you'll have someone who can easily watch across and make sure that that is the case, and still have someone watching short. Any push up elbow or anything like that, you also have two players guarding that too. So that's no big issue. You should be okay there with two players being able to guard that. This is how they solved the problem. They essentially said, we're going to cheat on two of the entranceways. We're going to cheat on. Because this cave is such a big deal that we actually need two players being able to see what's going on at cave, because it's such a hard entrance point to defend that we're going to let two entranceways go without anyone really, being close and manning them in terms of both tube and the push-up mid-short doors. That's how worried and that's how problematic the cave entrance is, that they decided we're just going to full-on commit to defending A. And this is how you should defend this map. And it's not that hard really, particularly if you're in like a 5-stack, you're playing with friends. This is pretty easy to communicate to your team of, each player has a pretty simple responsibility. These two are dealing with cave. If someone comes up short, then, adjust accordingly, find a position where you can't be seen very easily from the initial push up short. Then this person here, if the door gets opened, close it. If this trapwire goes off, you're going to watch it. you two are going to watch anything going up across short and communicate that to your opponents. You should be okay for dealing with any elbow push or anything else up mid. You should hopefully be far enough away, and there's two of you there, so hopefully you can deal with that. And then the person on B, just focus on B, and that's all you have to do, because what you'll find is most teams don't like going B nearly as much as they do A, because it's much easier to attack the A site, and so they will most of the time, and this just gives you an easy way of being able to find kills that you otherwise wouldn't. When it's 3v1 on this cave push, that person has no chance. When it's 3v2, all of a sudden it becomes quite a bit easier to be able to stop, because being a defender is an inherent advantage. And so this is the setup you need to have. This is where you should be playing positions. Obviously, this person can kind of play sort of anywhere around here. They can kind of play where they want, and the person on B side can kind of play where they want as well. But these three should be locked in. These three should be in these positions, exactly these positions, because it's very important to be able to figure this stuff out. And so that is the crux to defending on Breeze. Now let's quickly talk about rotations. Obviously, it is a very big map. And as I mentioned, stopping them on A can be quite difficult. So on a site, it often might be the best case to just wait and play retake. This site is so hard to defend that even with this setup, sometimes, the attackers will just get it anyway, because there's not much you can do. So sometimes it's better just to leave it alone, play retake, and wait for your rotations, because then, once if you're in like a full 5v5, it probably won't be too difficult to actually, particularly, if you're coming from all different directions as well, it probably won't be too difficult to fully retake the site. The plant spots, there isn't too many great spots for attackers to go. What you'll tend to find is people just kind of coalesce back here, right? This is where most attackers will have to go a lot of time if you do play full retake. And that's actually a big advantage, because if the only space they've got is in cave, if their only space is backwards of that line, that's a lot of easy space to be able to take. And it means that a lot of the directions that you're coming from, you will be able to take a lot of space. And particularly, if then you kind of get someone on the full flank, then, you should be okay for retaking the site. It's not the hardest to retake, because there isn't many great positions for the attackers to go. They normally will just retreat back into cave, and that will be to your advantage. Now, when you defend on this setup for B site, it's much less likely that you're going to just play like full retake, let's not care. It's more likely that, you're going to have fights. This person can still defend the elbow rush. You have two on site here. It's much more likely that you're going to have more of a fight, and so it will be a lower numbers situation. But again, the rotations, it will take some time, but if you can fast rotate as quickly as you can, this one isn't as easy to retake. It kind of goes with the mantra, right? If it's a hard site to take, it's probably harder to retake as well. But again, there isn't too many fantastic positions for the attackers to take up. Again, they're probably mostly gonna be behind this line here, on this side of the line towards like the two towers and whatever. That's where they're probably gonna be. They can maybe go in this corner, but other than that, again, there isn't many places for them to go, so it shouldn't be too difficult again for you, to be able to make a retake on this map. And retakes will be pretty big in this map, and that's why you see a lot of defensive Viper walls, by the pro teams will be things, like maybe something like this, right? Which is plainly like a retake, very passive wall. It'll be something, you often see this one. Well, it's just a very passive defensive wall. We've seen like this one on A as well. Similar sort of thing, a very passive defensive wall here on A. Again, playing for retake, because retake isn't too hard on this map, and it will treat you pretty well. And that's why, this was a difficult map to defend at first, because it was very different to the other maps, and it needed to be solved in a way. But once teams, kind of got used to the way of playing it, then you start to see results on the defense, and you start to understand, okay, this is actually what you have to do to defend on this map, which was very different. When we look at Ascend and Bind, there isn't those things. It's just defend normally, and you'll be fine for the most part. Whereas for this map, you can't defend normally. You have to treat it very differently. You have to be much more willing to give up space. You have to be much more willing to, take your time and let the attackers come to you a bit more, and play a bit more passive, and then wait for your team. That's how you have to win on this map, and it's not going to be easy. And this is why it's not easy in ranked games, right? Because people just won't understand that. They just won't understand it at all. They'll just be like, I'm just going to defend normally. I'm going to play in my position, and I'm just going to play it, and that's it. And that's just not how you should play this map, to be honest. You have to play in a very set, specific way, understanding that you can't just, you can't just defend a site like it's any other site, because it's just not going to work. A team can just full 5 rush you, and if you're the only person defending A, you shouldn't be fine. You should run. You should run for the hills and live and wait for your team and then play a 5v5 retake, and you'll probably see that, the results are much better than a 5v5 retake on other maps. And so that was the quick lesson in how to defend on Breeze. This is the setup you need to remember. Right hand side of nest, in elbow, by the stairs, one on B, one on A, both of these watching cave, both of these in mid, watching the A short passageway, and the person on B is watching B. Don't be too aggressive at first, because it's basically flipping a coin. Wait until you're pretty sure of what's going on. Generally, your spawn will be very safe to rotate through, especially with this bit of utility here. And other than that, you should be pretty good to go. And that's how you defend Breeze, and that's how the pros kind of solved Breeze, and that is why it is important to understand these things, because if you use this kind of defensive setup, I can guarantee that you will have a lot more success on defending Breeze than you otherwise would playing it somewhat more normally.